Hi everyone, welcome to Third Coast Gaming Radio News, whatever we call it now. It is June 19th, 2021. I'm joined by my co-host Austin Taylor. It is Saturday, my dude. What's up?
It is a Saturday. It's hot
E3.
outside.
Oh, it's so hot. We're in Texas and it's like 100-ish degrees. And I know California and some other, in Nevada, we're hitting like 115 or 110. I was like, that shit's crazy. Heat wave, man. Middle of June.
Wild.
Yep. And E3 is just wrapping up last week. Kind of the middle of last week. They had some more stuff going up. What was it? Nintendo was like Monday or Tuesday.
Nintendo was Tuesday.
Yeah. So hey, we could start with Nintendo. I think Nintendo had one of the strongest set of lineups here. I would say it's up there with my excitement for like when I was watching the Microsoft one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super, I've never been big on Nintendo, but there are at least two announcements that were there that I was really into. So it's like a short enough direct that, those were enough to make it pretty strong.
Yeah, it was pretty short. I think I don't know if this link I have is in order, but the the Tekken announcement for Smash Brothers got me laughing so hard because I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take. Who's that? Kazuya from Tekken.
Yeah, the evil dad. Not to be mistaken for the evil
Yeah,
granddad.
if not Hayachi, Kazuya throwing people in volcanoes down. Who's Kazuya? Who's Kazuya's
Who is he?
son?
Jin.
Jin. Yep. The three of them. Yep. I was like,
Yeah,
for a second there, I was like, wait, is that Jin? No, it's Kazuya. Because I don't play Tekken a lot, but I played enough, and I played a decent amount
yeah.
of 7. But good stuff coming out
All,
of that. They threw
yeah,
Kirby
all I
off the
know about
cliff, and he came back up.
They had to do that. If you were gonna do that joke with Kirby, Kirby just had to flip back up.
It was a good one. It was a good one. Um, what did they announce first? Did they announce Metroid Dread first?
I
Doesn't
don't,
matter.
I don't have the chronological order of the direct in front of me. It was sort
Yeah.
of some smaller announcements, um, opened with games coming to Switch. Life is Strange, Life is Strange, the remastered collection, which is the first game in the prequel, as well as Life is Strange True Colors. They're coming to Switch because, for whatever reason, Square Enix has just decided to abandon Life is Strange 2.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotta promote the popular one, the first one. Metroid Dread looks really cool, man. I had a Game Boy Advance as a kid, and I played Zero Mission Fusion a lot. So I'm really into the stuff that's putting
Yeah,
off.
this looks cool. I've never played a Metroid
Huh.
um,
Not even
like
Prime?
this. I mean, I played a bit of Prime 3, but the problem is the Nintendo Wii controls on Prime 3 were awful. Um, and I don't think I got past the first mission. I tried to do it, I tried to get through it, and I thought it was cool up until I got to a boss fight I didn't know how to do anything with, and I just got really frustrated. And like my cousin and I just decided to turn it off and play Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2, I think.
Yeah. The Switch has some of those older ones that are pretty good. You can do Super Metroid on there through the Super Nintendo collection. But yeah, this is cool. It's Metroid Prime 5, which I remember Fusion, which is the fourth game, says Metroid 4 and then goes up and says Fusion after. Which
Yeah.
apparently, I guess the things coming out of this game is that it's kind of been kicking around for the last 15 years and
Yeah.
only been fully realized after that. What was it? Metroid 2 on the 3DS kind of came out and
The
was
Samus
really,
Returns.
yeah, was really successful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really interesting thing because yeah, they had this idea for Metroid for about 15 to 16 years. Um and yeah, right after the direct they had an interview with the sort of series producer who was talking about it, and they had tried to get this idea off the ground for a number of attempts. that just never seemed to work out until they partnered with Mercury Stream, who are the studio that did the Samus Returns collection. And once they got that like partnership going with them, they decided to revisit this idea with their assistants. And that's how you have like a
Yeah.
lot of mechanics, like the counter. Like the counter that's in Samus Returns, it makes a comeback here in Dread. Also, like new things like this whole sort of narrative setup here is that Samus goes to the station and is being stalked by these robots called Emmys that are giant indestructible things that will kill you if they catch you. So now you've got like a bit of this sort of chase horror happening in Metroid, which I don't know if I think this is new to this like iteration of the series.
Fusion did it a little bit. I know that was the 2D one right before this, and that one
Yeah,
had you being chased by like another Samus at certain points, and also like a giant monster and stuff. Not
yeah,
throughout the whole game though; it would just pop up. So I'm curious about this. I hate being chased by shit in games, and I remember it in Fusion was like my least favorite part. But like I'm so hyped for a Metroid game that I don't even care. Like I'm ready. There are people who like would much rather have a 2D like Metroid game than the Prime stuff, which I thought was like an interesting take. I think they're both cool. I grew up with both of
Y-
them.
yeah. I mean, if I had any sort of experience with Prime, I'd probably say that I'm still more interested in like a 2D one because I've never I've also never really been a big fan of like Metroidvanias or the ones that I've played. So I'm interested. I'm actually interested in this one mostly because Samus goes real fast in this one. Like Samus runs through levels in here real quick.
Yeah.
And you just seem to have like a lot of tools at your disposal. Like even with the Emmy chases, like they'll kill you if they catch you, but like you move really quickly. Also, there's a cloaking mechanic that's new here, and I'm just interested in seeing how they like handle the zones the Emmys patrol because they seem to be like sort of multiple Emmys, each like within certain areas, and like they're color coded too. And it's interesting, and I want to see where this goes, and also just the idea that this is the sort of conclusion to this decades running narrative that like took this 15 year I want to say break, but like 15-year sort of break is is interesting to me.
That and like Fusion came out in 2002, and I think Zero Mission was after, if I remember correctly. But there's this thing on here that the studio Mercury's team, who are they're in Madrid, Spain, they originally wanted to remake Fusion, and they were hired to do Samus Returns instead, and then kind of that rolled into this happening, which I think that's great. You know, more that I have been wanting these to come back because, like, Metroidvania. It's like it's where it came from. People's like
Yeah.
interest in this series, and then like okay, so Zero Mission was 2004. That's a remake of the first NES Metroid, and that game's also great. If you could, you have a PC, I would
Uh-huh.
say I would definitely emulate Fusion Zero Missions on there. They
Nice.
hold up very well. They're pretty fast too. Like the Super Nintendo one, which is the third one, Super Metroid, is a little slower, but you still have like a lot of options to do stuff in these games, which is like why I think they've held up very well.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I'm excited for it. It looks pretty. It looks fucking nice. I wish I could
Yeah.
play like I want to play Samus Returns really bad, but I don't have a 3DS right now, and I wish it came to Switch. But hey, maybe a little bit before this comes out. Let's see
Yeah,
what else
I
is.
wouldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hope so.
let's see what else came out on here. Is they had that Monkey Ball. I think this is the GameCube Monkey Ball game that they're bringing back, which I was like, oh, that's cool. I had a GameCube, but I didn't. I only had a couple games, so that's interesting. I can see people getting hyped for it. The one that got me, another Game Boy Advance classic, Advance Wars 1 and 2, which
Yeah.
the trailer started playing, and I was like, oh, is this only Advance Wars 1? Because 2 is just has like a lot more options for stuff. Black Hole Rising. Oh man, dude. I love Advance Wars. Holy shit.
Yeah, I mean it's like my only sort of familiarity with Advance Wars comes from like dabbling in Wargroove, which is just a fantasy Advance Wars. Um,
Okay.
but this looks fun. This looks interesting.
Yeah, the art style is a little different because in the original ones it's like 2D sprite art, and they have
Yeah,
this kind of like 3D thing, and it looks like you're playing on top of a tabletop. But I I did the thing where I got an emulated version of this on my phone, and I was playing like the original like Advance Wars and Advance Wars 2, just playing a couple maps on my phone for funsies because it runs enough. It's easy enough to run like on a touchscreen. But yeah, that's
yeah,
cool. That it's just the first two, and they still have like there's the DS version, which was called Dual Strike, was really cool because you could have two commanders, and you could because every commander basically has an ability, and with Dual Strike you could have two, and that one was great because you could use the touch screen to move your units, which is just really fun. Which I hope you could see as like, hey, if this does well, maybe they'll bring another one back, and you can have some touchscreen stuff on the when it's undocked. Just
that'd
nostalgia
be interesting.
tripping for Advance
Yeah,
Wars. Fucking WarioWare.
yeah,
It's
you,
very funny trailer. Which a little different from the other WarioWare games that were like also Game Boy and DS games is that you're controlling a character instead of just like hitting buttons to do stuff. And
yeah.
all the different characters have like different abilities that they're kind of like movement abilities to do different stuff. It's fun. They're just WarioWare Get It Together is like a minigame collection, and they're always weird and fucking just wild. And Wario is fucking Wario.
Yeah, I'm not big on like mini game collection games. This seems like there's always been enough sort of flavor to WarioWare that I look at it like maybe this time. I doubt it'll happen this time with me, but maybe this time.
And sometimes I definitely enjoy watching other people stream the WarioWare games too. Like Giant Bomb has done some WarioWare stuff, and they've always been funny.
Yeah.
I've never bought one personally. I've like borrowed it from people back in the day. Um, hey, what about Mario Party fucking Superstars?
This.
A collection of mini games from Mario Party 1 through 3 with like some
Oh
remastered
no.
maps as well.
Yeah, it looks like pain.
I I really want it and I really don't want it. I keep almost buying the other Mario Party game, but I think this one is cool cuz a lot of these game companies are doing this is they're putting out remakes and remasters and hitting that like nostalgia as well
Yeah.
as like nicer graphics, new console, which is like, all right, cool. I'll stretch Bowser's face out. Fuck it. Let's
This
go.
is yeah, I don't know. There's too many memories of Mario Party. Too many bad memories of Mario Party like 2 specifically.
Yeah, I didn't have a 64 growing up, but I played it at a couple friends' house. And I watched all those fucking Giant Bomb
Yeah.
videos where they play
Yeah,
50 turns of them and they take like 2 hours. And it's just Dan
exactly.
Reichert
That's
being a monster, and I'm very excited.
those are watching those. They had that endurance run series. Watching those is in and of itself an endurance run, and just seeing Mario Party 2's space level remastered and like in HD, I absolutely I almost turned the direct off. I couldn't look at this.
That's pretty good. We got like a Shimigami Tensei 5, which I've never really played the Shimigami Tensei stuff. I bought 4 and didn't touch it. That was like a DS one. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Looks like a Japanese role
Yeah,
playing
it
game.
looks like it's got a cool looking protagonist, right? Like they're in some really dope school garb before they end up in this like just like this like backlit armor.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna skip around because I want to talk about that fucking Breath of the Wild 2. That looks really cool.
Yeah,
I'm glad they showed some gameplay off of you skydiving as someone who may or may not be Link, unconfirmed. But this game looks wild. I'm ready for a second one. It's interesting that like they really did not talk about like the Switch Plus or the Switch Pro or whatever, but I can see this if that does come out, I can see this launching beside it like the original Breath of the Wild.
yeah, and like I mean, the whole reason for that is like this is still I imagine like a Switch Pro that comes out is just gonna be like a a PS4 Pro to a PlayStation 4, right? Like it's going to boast that it has a better performance, but like games will still run on your basic Switch. Um,
Yeah.
and I doubt they really want to until they like have it ready to go. I don't think they want to sort of start advertising it to people because they want
Yeah.
people to like just buy their games as they're coming out. Yeah, but the Breath of the Wild sequel looks interesting. I love that. Like, we spent like the past year since, or like two maybe, since the original tease for Breath of the Wild to being like, oh, can you play Zelda in this one? And immediately this trailer opens with Zelda falling down a pit.
Oh, does it? I didn't
Yeah,
catch that
like,
part.
I mean, it's like a whole thing. It opens with like some spooky business happening in the catacombs under Hyrule Castle.
Yeah. Oh,
Zelda
there's
falls
Zelda
down a
falling.
pit.
Got it.
Link's hand gets grabbed by something, and then next thing we know, we're skydiving. The protagonist, most likely Link, because I doubt Nintendo's gonna do anything interesting in a Zelda game, is like skydiving in this real Skyward Sword-esque moment. Arm is different
Yeah, you
now.
got a robot arm. Maybe it
Yeah,
might be a
like a Sheikah
glove. Might be
arm.
a. You might have just lost your arm and you're going full Phantom Pain, which who knows. Oh, and
It
you
looks,
can zip through like landscape as well. You turn yourself into like a drop of water and you like went straight through a wall or a floor.
yeah, the powers like afforded by this arm seem really interesting, and also the sort of remixed enemy design with like the goblin base being on one of those big like stone I don't know what the actual like name for those stone golems are, but like those giant stone golems you'd find out in the world where you have to get on their back and like hit a rock. That's their weak point. Like the goblins having like a base on top of that creature is quite interesting.
Oh, and a fucking flamethrower. Can't forget about the flamethrower. Jesus Christ.
Mm.
That's great. It's gonna turn into a gun. It's just gonna be Mario and Rabbids again, where you just give the protagonist a gun. It's fine.
I mean
Uh,
that's you know
it works. Age of Calamity is getting an expansion. I did not buy that game. I should. It looks really cool.
yeah.
Uh,
Zelda's riding a motorcycle.
Zelda's
Let's
riding a
go.
motorcycle. Danganronpa. I think this is the like Danganronpa 1, 2, and 3 maybe. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 2 is coming to Switch as well. Looks alright. Let's see, Doom Eternal is getting some DLC on Switch. What was it? What was the other banger on here? There was something else that was like, I was like, whoa. No, I think we got it all. I think that was the
Bangers.
Nintendo press conference.
I'm thinking about like the bangers that were here, and I'm just like, I can't think of any bangers that Nintendo had.
Oh yeah,
Um,
so it was
outside of what we've already talked about.
yeah. Besides what you talked about, yeah, I think that's it.
Uh,
Yeah. Um.
this is
So yeah, if we go into our list of stuff we both liked, I think Metroid Dread's up there. We kind of talked about Metroid Dread. It looks cool, man. I'm ready for a 2D Metroid. I'm totally just gonna download these on my PC and go replay. I might start with Zero Mission because it's like the first game, you know. Maybe I'll find a 3DS somewhere or something. Um, Halo Infinite got another trailer for that. That's looks dope. Uh,
yeah,
the multiplayer stuff looks really cool.
yeah, and like like this is sort of unveiled at the Microsoft's press event. They sort of show this like a bit of a gameplay cutscene. It looks like where they introduce Cortana too, but this time she's got clothes. Um,
I said, yes, I'm glad they gave a Cortana
and they don't.
clothes. Took them long
Yeah,
enough.
and this is like, I mean, it's whatever. Like Cortana, like you make jokes about Cortana like being a nude one, but like in the end of the day, she's like a featureless, like sexless caricature of a nude woman. It's not a
Yeah.
big deal. And then you have like the sort of the free multiplayer unveiling, which just seems wild. Like seems like they're really digging into like physics, right? Like you have a lot of like you get grappling hook abilities, so you can use that to pull yourself to environments, also pull weapons to you. There's a bit like pretty late in the gameplay demo where someone throws a flash grenade at like a sword that's on the ground. Not a flash grenade, the plasma grenade, where a sword is, and that blows the like up next to the sword and sends the sword flying towards the player, which they then use to like slash at some people. So it looks really good.
Oh, and grappling hooks too, just grabbing weapons and shit.
Yep.
And I saw the wheel of a warthog fall off. I was like, oh, that's cool. Fuck it. The coolest part, I think this came from the announcement after, which was the Xbox Game Showcase Extended, was the Battle Pass. Is just like they don't
Yeah.
end. You can go back to other Battle Passes if you want to go get stuff, if you have something you're grinding for, which like most games will have like a $10 thing every season, every 3 months, and you'll grind it and level up and get to the halfway through to the end, and it'll end, and you'll have to start another one. This one you can just go back, which I'm way into. And they've talked about like their microtransactions are only cosmetic stuff, no gameplay. You got to get those through like leveling or whatever it's gonna be. But yeah, I've always loved like Halo's like cosmetic stuff. I think they're really cool.
Yeah. Like, and I'll say like my biggest sort of like, we've tried multiple times to like stick with Apex Legends, right? Like, it's not a bad game by any means. It's just like it's hard to want to stick with something when you think about how everything you're working towards is just going to go away at some point. Like, if you don't get it beforehand, right? So like the idea of a battle passes in Halo, like sort of sticking around indefinitely is a lot more encouraging to me personally.
Yeah, and this is like I'm really excited because it's got crossplay and cross save. So like in my mind, I think I'm maybe Austin's PC could run Halo Infinite, and I could have it on my Xbox, and we could play some multiplayer because it's free. Fuck yeah, dude! Make it
Yeah.
free. Make it free. Give the campaign is paid and the multiplayer is free. That's the best Microsoft move. And I think it's like even Halo 5, which like people are, it was like an okay campaign. Like the multiplayer is great, and it like that just coming to PC and being free is such a move. It's like and Game Pass. It's like such a big move. I think it's so smart of them.
Yeah.
What else was in here that was cool? I'm trying to think from that multiplayer. I don't know. I'm down to play more multiplayer on like a Series S. So that should be cool. We should talk about Redfall for a bit because we've been talking about like this other stuff. Redfall looks really cool. They're what is Arcane Austin, right?
Yep.
I could go find their. I'm in Austin. Spoilers. I could go find their thing somewhere. But that's cool.
Yeah. Don't just.
Here's your description. A bunch of hip teens are gonna kill some vampires. It's a co-op game, right?
Yeah. So it's a co-op shooter where a couple of like a wacky cast of like either teens or like young 20 somethings are stuck in a town of I guess the name of the town is Redfall, and seemingly there is just a mass vampire invasion happening. Probably some like narrative where the ultimate vampire ritual is to blot out the sun so that way they can, endless night and feed forever and all that such. And all we got from the Xbox showcase was this CG trailer that, like, at the very least, sold a tone that was interesting enough. It's this sort of this humorous, like fun tone that you get in the like in things like the initial trailer for the game that would wind up being Fuse. Fuse being the co-op shooter from Insomniac that was just quite frankly, uh, I'm trying to find the words, just not memorable. I think is probably the best way to describe Fuse. But
And
this seems,
generic too. I think
yeah,
the cool stuff, what I heard from people who are into that, is just like as 4-player co-op, you had some weird guns, but there's like nothing else more than that.
yeah. And this is at the very least like the player characters seem to have some pretty interesting abilities. You have well, I mean, at least three of them anyway. Like one of them is a dude who can become invisible. The other one is this woman with psychic powers and telekinetic powers. The third is this woman who looks like she is like the mechanic, right? She has like this robot, android, not android, but like little robot that follows her everywhere. The fourth one I have a bit of a hard time sort of thinking much of because he's just a dude who seems to be categorizing everything you're seeing. So like maybe this person's abilities will like allow you to take advantage of weak spots on enemies, that sort of thing. But we don't know enough about how this game is going to play yet to really to get a good idea of what that character was doing, I'll say.
Yeah, I remember the trailer. It seemed cool. I like arcane stuff. Dishonored's great. Prey is fucking. I should play. I should. I always think about playing more Prey and then not doing it because that game
Yeah.
takes like I would call it. There's like it's a little bit of dedication that sometimes I don't have with like single player
Yeah.
games where.
Well, I mean, Prey is just it has a really rough start. I don't think the mimics, being like, probably being like you're on a space station and then like these weird little tendril monsters like sort of start killing everyone, take over and such, and one of them are these mimics that transform into everyday objects. They're not super interesting to fight. Um,
Yeah. And I
and
think some of the combat you get into, you can get crushed by dudes. You can just get fucking
yeah,
murdered.
yeah, you can just get crushed. And like, the other thing I'll say is like, I never thought the controls in Prey were that responsive. I've always had a problem
Yeah. Was that
with
even on
how
like PC? Because I played on console and I was like, oh, this is kind of
I mean,
doesn't feel as
it's
good.
definitely with controller. It's kind of always been with controller the whole time. I haven't, played Prey with a keyboard. Maybe that'll be the thing, right? Like I finally re-download Prey and I go through it on keyboard and mouse, and like suddenly it just feels right. But I don't have that kind of interest in it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I haven't even played a bunch of keyboard. I play Left 4 Dead. That's the only keyboard and mouse game I can play.
Yeah,
Back for Blood, the other co-op shooter that October 12th coming to Game Pass, man. This is the Turtle Rock
yeah,
game that is like this. What I will say is the successor for Left 4 Dead, which is just like cool. It's Left 4 Dead and it's got some more stuff in it. It had like I'm trying to remember some of the weapons that were like different in Back for Blood.
I mean, like the main difference I'd say is that it has like a much larger like cast of characters that have actual like
Yeah.
characteristics to them, as opposed to like for let you play Left 4 Dead, and it's like you have these four survivors, and it doesn't really matter which one you pick. Like the cast of Back for Blood have like abilities and specializations. There's also a card system for augmenting these characters that is not in something like Left 4 Dead.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. I'm watching this right now. It's like the character trailer. Like Carly. I just had it. Carly has quick inventory and I missed the other one. Plus, like team use speed, so everybody uses their stuff faster. And I guess
Yeah,
there's like a medic character as well who's just named Doc.
yeah. So like this is Turtle Rock. These are the people who made before this made Evolve, which less said about that. I mean, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't particularly interesting. Like it had one sort of gameplay loop, and it ended.
I'm sure. Let me put out a bold statement. I'm sure if Evolve was like free at launch, it probably would have. It might have seen like a different market than being like a paid thing.
Mm,
Because
I
it's
doubt
just
it.
it's just multiplayer, and then it's hard to like sell people on like we have a couple monsters and a couple maps to play
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's more than that. It's just like it had this one gameplay loop, and you do it the one time. You've seen pretty much all there is to see in that game, and I just don't think there's much to grab people there. Certainly wasn't like anything interesting rewards wise. I think, and then once you got like the third monster in that, like that's probably the most fun you could have with monsters. But that's just a glass cannon of a thing, um,
Yeah, but
and it made the
I'm
game
glad
very
they're going
easy.
back to Left 4 Dead. This seems really cool.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a bit sort of I'm cautious regarding like card systems, like for buffs. I don't, like this is still like the Battlefront 2 kind of thing, right? Like Battlefront 2 does something very similar, and I've never been a fan of how that game's multiplayer is in that way. Um, but it is and sort of unveiling like other PvP stuff that exists in Back 4 Blood. Like their specific thing was that you don't like customize decks of cards in Back 4 Blood's PvP. Instead, you have like classes that have like set cards and such. That way, they have set characteristics that people aren't
Okay.
like upgrading to be better than others, right?
That's cool.
Yeah,
Ooh,
it's that.
the hag is scary.
Yeah,
Just eats
so it looks
people.
interesting.
Yeah. I I'm I'm watching the I guess I might not have watched this. This is from May. Oh yeah, this looks I'm ready. Hey man, it's on Game Pass. Cool way. All of that Microsoft press conference was like, "Hey, these games are just coming to Game Pass. It's a great deal." It's like Game Pass reminds me of like I'm just going to rent this game but for a month for $10, which is just like super like a cool thing.
Yeah, I again, there's just the ever-present question of like, is this sustainable? Um, it hasn't blown
Apparently
up
so.
yet.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
hasn't. I wouldn't say it's been long enough for us to know if this is sustainable.
Yeah, it's like the Netflix thing where you pay for something 1 month and then the next month you pay for a different thing, unless they're like their what you call it, stuff that's like Microsoft owned studios that are just yeah we're gonna charge these people $10 instead of 60. Maybe there's bigger install base. But the hypest part was we got to look more at Battlefield 2042, which I don't think we have gotten to talk about yet because it had like a trailer before like our last podcast, but I wanted to wait for the Microsoft stuff. But this is
Yeah.
some dope shit, Austin. It was like they got the gear, they're doing modern combat, a little postmodern. It's what
Well, I
was
mean,
it?
it's futuristic. It's
Yeah.
postmodern is a very like specific
Oh, okay.
thing. Yeah, like it's narratively, it's in an interesting setting because their whole thing is like within the multiplayer narrative, you are playing as one of a number of PMC groups made up of climate refugees.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and you know, there's a really embarrassing interview on IGN where they just sort of asked if this game was political, that sort of question that is all the buzz now. And the response was, this is all just for gameplay reasons, because the things that happen in this game are, you are playing as uh, climate refugees, and also in these maps there will be random like weather events like tornadoes, like
Yeah.
super tornadoes that can come up and just destroy a lot of a map.
Yeah, and the other reason for those PMCs is that each side will have like their four classes, and then there's like specialized classes, kind of like what I will describe as like a siege character or like something along the lines where they have a set loadout that they go into, but they're like branches off the four, which are like sniper, assault, engineer, and support. And those are like the base four classes, and these specialist classes, there'll be like 3 or 4 specialist classes per regular one who are like uniquely named and have like a different skin and are like these PMC soldiers, which people in the community were like, I don't want these. I don't want Overwatch and Siege. I just want Battlefield. I want the classes. But you have both. You have the availability to get both, which is really cool. And in the first trailer, they did the funny thing that was in one of the a YouTuber will do this. There's a clip where he gets out of a jet and shoots a rocket at another jet and blows it up, and then gets back in his jet, which was a very hype moment.
Yeah, they directly like called back to that in that trailer. Yeah, it looks like a lot. Like I've always struggled to get into Battlefield because every time I start, I'm like, oh wow, this is just so much. Um, and it seems like in here the emphasis is just on these really big, like sort of team battles, which is like why I think the
Yeah,
specializations that are present in this new Battlefield seem interesting. I just don't know if I'll
yeah.
ever dive into them.
And it's cool that they're going up to 128 players, which that's wild. That's a half a mag Mag is a PS3 game where you had 256 players, so it's half.
Yeah.
And that is for PC and current gen consoles. On previous gen, like PS4 and Xbox, they're capped at 64. Um, the maps are really big. They took a look at certain maps from like Battlefield 5 and their that Xbox thing that was after the press conference. And one of the maps that they're talking about, they didn't show any of them, but they had scale stuff. And one of them was like 3 times one of the maps in like fucking Battlefield 5, and I'm like, that's insane. And they showed this other thing where, so in a Battlefield map, there's like 7-point objectives, which are like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And what they did this time is on a map, there's like circles around certain objectives. Like, let's say A is a certain area, and there's 3 points you have to capture within A. You have to hold like 2 of them, I guess, or all 3, to where you'll get that whole area. So there's like 2 or 3 points on the map that are like that, and then the rest of them are like the single flag captured point. So I was like, oh, that's cool. They're kind of changing it up. Maybe the games will be a little longer too, because I know right now a game of Battlefield's like 30 to 45 minutes too, which that's just like regular conquest, and that's really fun. That's like one of the things I like about Battlefield is you're in a map and you're kind of pushing this line back and forth with the other team, trying to like have a better control of the map and stuff.
Yeah, it's just Battlefield's always been huge. It is like overwhelmingly big for me, and seeing like bringing it back into this sort of little future, like sort of futuristic setting is just like, oh, this just looks even more complicated now.
It's not too bad. At first it's daunting, but when you get into it, like we played some Battlefront. The enemies have a couple objectives. We have some objectives, and we drop in and you go hit an objective with some people.
Yeah, but Battlefront is not concerned with nearly as much on like in a match as Battlefield has been since like even Bad Company.
Yeah, at least like certain stuff will have like you got tanks and jets flying around, and then you're on the ground just kind of like running with some other dudes. And I've also played like almost every Battlefield, so it's easier for me to say, oh, it's easy, but I can see the other side of it. They're big. They're pretty big maps, and there can be a lot of stuff going on. I missed the Battlefield 1 stuff where if your team was losing, like an epic vehicle would show up, like a train or a blimp, and it would help you like push the other side.
Yeah, like
that stuff
really
was cool.
Big armored train. That was wild.
Did you play Battlefield 1 at all? I know we've talked.
I did.
It
was like on sale for like I think 2 years after it came out. It was on sale for like $5, and I was like, oh, this will be at the very least interesting. I played one of the campaigns and didn't like it at all. And then I played multiplayer for that and it was just getting creamed the entire time.
Yeah, that can happen too. Sometimes people are just like really good at like the older games that come out. I think they put Battlefield 4 out for free on Steam, like around the announcement of 2042. So I've been on Reddit and people are like, "Oh, look, all these servers are full. Look how many people are playing Battlefield 4." And I'm like, I'm glad for people. 4 is okay. It runs differently on console. I like 5's like advancements in like shooting and like aiming and like the way their engine is set up. I'm not as into 4, but that's really cool for them. Their trailer, I guess, did way better than 5's trailer. There was someone joking about the like comparison stuff, like comparing the two, but I don't know. People seem excited for it, and this is like what I would call the off year for like Call of Duty, where like we got Modern Warfare 2 years ago, and right now with Call of Duty, it sounds like it might be another World War II this year or something. And the only other shooter coming out is Infinite, so this might be a Battlefield year. There's hype for it. It's the first year of a console, and there's this really big game with this really big player count that doesn't happen too often. So
like it's a modern Battlefield game. The trailer didn't focus on a woman, so misogynists aren't going to be up in arms
Of
about it.
course.
Um, they could do really good this time. They
Yeah.
could really take it.
Yeah. But besides yeah, that I hated that. That trailer was fine. It was fun. It had weird
Yeah,
it had interesting it was doing interesting stuff that I wish had shown up
yeah,
more in 5. Instead 5 was,
yeah,
it's just a World War II game. It was just Battlefield World War II.
yeah. I mean, it's just it's always this sort of thing of like American dudes are like, why is there a woman in World War II? There are women all over World War II. It's such a American perspective to think that women were inactive in fighting in World War II.
Yeah, and like in the campaign, you play as like female, like a mother and her daughter. They're like Swedish operatives who used to ski. So they're coming in. You're skiing into a level and coming in and taking dudes out and stuff. Like they're
Yeah.
part of that Battlefield 5 campaign. It's actually really cool.
Well, I
But
mean, even things like we talked about Colette before this, right? That documentary that was made for Medal of Honor. Like this is a girl who grew up in German occupied France, and like her whole thing that she did is she would take note of the amount of Germans like on patrol as a child. Like resistance required everyone.
yeah, and not dudes being like, "Oh, women weren't in World
Yeah.
War II. Women weren't in wars." It's dumb shit. I had one more Battlefield thought. I don't remember what it was though.
The jets
Um,
the jets fly real good.
the
Is
jets
that
fly real. You got the helicopters with the two blades on the side. I don't know. It's the first year of consoles. It's a big game.
yeah,
It's got some different game modes. Oh, and it's okay. This is going to be only multiplayer. They're not doing a campaign this year
that's
to
right.
focus on it because normally, like Battlefield 5 felt like it was missing some maps at launch because they had their big campaign as well. But this time, it's been a couple. I think it was. I don't remember which came out first, Battlefront 2 or Battlefield 5, but they've kind of taken their time. It's been like 3 years or something. And yeah, they're just doing the campaign, they're just doing the multiplayer. There's probably going to be a if this ends up happening, there might be a battle royale later
Yeah.
for like a separate thing like Warzone where it's free. But yeah, this is I don't know if like it launches and the servers are good and you're not getting dropped and it can keep up with stuff. Okay, here, yeah, 2017 Battlefront 2, 2018 Battlefield 5. So yeah, it's been 3 years. So
Yeah.
here's
Yeah,
hoping. I'm excited. I was playing Battlefield like a month ago still.
yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if like Battlefield doesn't. I'm not like ditches campaigns really. If it's not doing like historical stuff, I would not be surprised if like we don't see more Battlefield campaigns.
I would rather see like a co-op mode that's like a lot longer or something. That'd be more interesting to me than a campaign. Like a some PVE thing, not like Spec Ops in Call of Duty where it's like a couple missions, but like something
Yeah.
like you could do something. Oh, and they're doing bot matches. They're kind of bringing you can have closed servers where it's just you
Okay. Okay.
and a squad and everyone else is bots. Like you remember the PS2 and Xbox Star Wars Battlefront? They did that and they had their campaign set up that way where you would just select the maps and you would go through a couple maps and basically play bot matches at Battlefront and that was the story. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
if the lobby and they do this other thing, they have the bots in the lobby, and if the lobby's not full, they'll fill the rest with bots, and the bots will be taken out as new players come in. So it's going to keep that higher player count because sometimes you'll see like matches being like half full, but people will play in them because they're smaller. But we could see some custom servers too, where people set a smaller player count on the bigger map still. So it's cool. I'm ready for Battlefield, man. October. I hope I have a PS5 by then. If not, I'll get it on Xbox. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Um, what else is on here? Replaced. I do not remember what Replaced is at all, but it's on this list, and I'm gonna check this trailer.
Yeah. So this is the side-scrolling cyberpunk game that, like, I think at first glance I thought was I was afraid almost was like the sort of reemergence of The Last Night, right? Which was that other like side-scrolling cyberpunk game developed by Tim Soray, like that we saw in like 2017, and that got like a lot of flack because like old thoughts from from Soray like resurfaced about like how the dystopia of The Last Night was like, what if feminism won? Um,
Gross. But this looks really
and
cool. This
yeah, this
um
looks
this
cool.
looks like it's got the art style of Kentucky Route Zero, which is like these kind of somewhat pixelized characters. Like at least the characters. I mean, I don't mean the overarching like
Yeah,
Kentucky Route Zero, but
I
like
think yeah, like I'm always when I look at like Kentucky Route Zero, I'm like reminded more of like paper mache, but I can see where you get that. Like looking at this trailer again, like I can see that now that you mention it.
yeah, and this is a side-scrolling cyberpunk single-player adventure. That yeah, this looks really cool. This was at Microsoft press conference as well. They call IGN is describing it as high res yet retro graphics, which yeah, come in
Yeah,
2022. This looks really cool. I could be into it.
yeah, and like this seems more like where The Last Night wanted to be more like detective. This is more like sort of I'd say almost like cyber western kind of thing, right? Like you were just this one dude whose I believe his body has been taken over by an AI is sort of the narrative setup here, and they're
I
trying to
yeah.
survive here, and it seems interesting enough. I would need to see more before I get like super excited, but it looks neat enough that I am like I want to see more. You know, like I'm in that position where like I'm even interested in seeing more.
Yeah. I don't remember if it was this studio or a different one, but there was a game being shown off that was some people who worked on was it Play Dead did Inside and Limbo.
Yes, you're thinking of Somerville,
Somerville.
which
That
is
yeah.
also yeah, which is also in that showcase, and this is from the co like studio founder who left the studio that made Limbo and Inside, um, which seems to be about like a family trying to survive an alien invasion.
How do you what
Is
was
what I
this
get.
game called again? I'm trying to find it on YouTube.
Somerville, so it's Somer Ville.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah. I was like, I remember seeing this. I was like, this looks a little like Inside, and it turns out that's why. So
yeah, it's made by like yeah by that co-creator who left that studio.
yeah, so that's I'm pretty interested in that as well. What else is on this list? Stalker 2, also at the Xbox conference.
Ugh,
Console Stalker game, man.
yeah,
Fuck it. I don't remember if the other Stalker was on console, but I'm
I
sure
don't think
it.
it made it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really like this is a really cool showing. Like it had like a solid like 5 minute trailer, which I wasn't expecting. That sort of opens with you like the main character sort of sitting down at a campfire with some lads talking about first a gunfight. So I was pretty worried. He's like, "Oh wow, we're already opening with the gunfights of Stalker. That's a bit of a bummer." But then it gets just weirder as it goes. You know, like it.
Yeah.
You go back to because like the whole thing is like apocalyptic Chernobyl, um, and like you're going through Chernobyl and you're like throwing items in front of you so that way like you don't walk into an anomaly, which is just this sort of storm that will tear you apart um, if you get too close to it. It's really like if I were to like the other sort of easy comparison here is Metro, right? The Metro series. Stalker is so much more interested in the weird of its apocalypse than like Metro, specifically Metro Exodus, is. And I'm really curious to see what happens there.
Yeah, so
It
this
looks
this
really
looks
good.
really cool. I'm ready to play a Stalker game, and this also makes me want to what's that PC game that's kind of Stalker adjacent, but it's like multiplayer based where you go into
Escape from
like
Tarkov?
yeah, man, I wish they made like a cool console version of that. But that's a whole different like multiplayer beast. But yeah, Stalker looking cool, looks very fucking good. And I think this was probably running on a Series X.
Oh,
Looks really
definitely.
good.
There's
When you
no,
throw that fucking scope on that rifle, I
yeah,
was like, "Oh, hello."
yeah. So it wants to be like, yeah, like it has these sort of demonstrations of like field, weapon upgrades. Also just like how like the reticle zooms up, right? It doesn't like completely block out the rest of the screen, but like it does go out of focus on everything that's not like in the reticle, which is interesting. Um, it looks like there'll be some really interesting like characters. There's a point where a dude's just dancing after he fixes a radio. It's very charming. And then like the game ends with your character speaking with someone who seems to have a vested interest in the protection of this area.
So
And it looks like there's some
yeah,
mysteries.
real cool stuff. We got that Starfield trailer, which is gonna be an Xbox exclusive. They did say coming to
Yep.
PC as well. It looks like a trailer for Starfield. So
Yeah, it's sort of, they want it to be like a Han Solo simulator, is what I believe Pete Hines said in an interview.
I think my eyes just rolled in the back of my head when he said that.
Well, I mean, like
Sorry.
Han Solo, like the fantasy of Han Solo has always been like fun enough, right? Like once you separate it from that specific character, it's interesting enough. I'm not, I don't know, I need to see more of Starfield. Like this does not, I think this
Yeah,
is in engine,
yeah,
but in engine doesn't mean much to me.
yeah. I just meant like someone saying that out loud, like describing their game. I can see that as being a way to describe like a game, though, from like a
Yeah.
developer's point of view. But Starfield, we'll see when it comes out. And
I mean, it could have been
what year
worse.
is it? It'll come out in 2027.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It could have been worse. It could have been no, it'll come out November 11th, 2022.
Yeah, it could have been the
Um,
Outer Worlds too.
yeah,
The
well,
other space game that Austin is
I
less
was just
into.
I was just gonna say they could have been like they want it to be a Firefly simulator, but sure, we can just dive right for the throat of the Outer Worlds too.
Yep, which is the Obsidian's sequel to the other game. Also going to be a Game Pass game. It's
Yeah,
people don't have to pay full price for this, which I think like is like the cool part of it.
yeah,
But it's still not. What were you talking about? Pillars of Eternity 3,
two.
which
Um,
or the game that they could be making instead of this.
yeah, like I mean they could be making anything instead of the Outer Worlds too. Like this is just like my own personal like beef with the Outer Worlds being just it's not an interesting RPG in any way. I don't think the world that we saw in the Outer Worlds is particularly like deserving of a sequel. Like I don't want to go back there um ever again. Like I joked on Twitter, like the only way you'd get me into an Outer Worlds 2 is if like the big sort of side quest that would go on throughout this game is like you're trying to help Parvati like plan her wedding.
Could
Um
happen. Could
which
happen.
is like
They
the
might be
only thing
listening.
the only thing you could get me into the Outer Worlds 2 to do. Like I there's nothing else about that first game that makes me want to touch a sequel in any way. But sure,
Yeah.
like it did good for him, so they're gonna make the second game. Maybe one day we'll see what Avowed looks like. Um,
Well, I think the biggest thing is that like with like Microsoft picking up Obsidian as well, and they're like wanting just to put a new game on Game Pass every month. I could see Obsidian also working on something else. The opportunity is there to kind of they have this really good thing with like the first Outer Worlds where it's like a smaller Bethesda game that you don't have to pay full price for. And I think that's like, you could play that for like a week or two, or you could get deeper into it and it's got the DLC and stuff.
yeah,
And
it's
it's
definitely
we were also talking about it's there for people who want it. You either see the thing and be like, "Oh, I want to play that," or you see it and be like, "Yeah, I probably it's not for me." And
yeah,
I didn't play the first one either.
yeah. Like I don't begrudge. Like I begrudge with the Outer Worlds 2, like the resources that are going into the Outer Worlds 2 as opposed to other projects more than anything. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily care that it exists that much. Like it's fine. I just won't touch it. Like I'll check back in when like we see what's up with Avowed because that's like their Elder Scrolls game, right? Because they
Yeah.
made their sort of take on Bethesda Fallout games in space. Um,
And
and
I would say I would characterize Austin as being like a fan of Obsidian. So
oh, huge.
I could see if them making it's like Capcom not making Lost Planet for me. I'd be like, come on,
Yeah,
guys, you're making a lot of Resident Evil games here. Can you give me a Lost Planet game, please?
yeah. It's just sort of reflecting on the fact that like Pillars of Eternity 2 did not do well enough for them to like continue with that series in the direction they were going in, which is, probably one of the biggest injustices of the current games industry. But
Yeah.
I'll not say that. That is definitely hyperbole there. Um,
I have to, since we keep talking about Game Pass, or at least I do, Pillars of Eternity on Game Pass.
it's
Yeah.
on Game Pass. They're both
It's
on
on
Game
Game
Pass.
Pass. All right. Are they on
Um,
console Game Pass and PC Game Pass, or just PC?
I don't know. I
That's a
know
good
that there are
question.
console editions for Pillars of Eternity, but I don't know if they
Gotcha.
put those on the Game Pass.
Let's see. Forza Horizon 5, which looks really cool. It's very pretty. Very excited to try that out. Um, fucking console version of Microsoft Flight Simulator with
Yeah,
like Top Gun stuff in
yeah,
it.
Top Gun crossover.
Sure, let's go.
Of course, like
That's gonna be a rad way to just sit there on your fucking gamer chair playing that on your console. I think that's cool.
yeah. Um,
For the people who want to fly for 4 hours in game.
I think it's just a relaxing thing.
Yeah.
Get in your gamer chair, hook up your cool
Yeah.
pilot stick.
Atomic Heart had a trailer. This is the weird, what I would call the weird first person game, which
Yeah,
I thought this
An-
trailer was really cool.
another like Russian apocalypse, sort of retro future game. Looks interesting enough. It hopefully like I think it's definitely trying to evoke a BioShock.
Yeah, except like the weird music in this trailer, and just like it's just like it sounds like Russian pop is what I'll call it, and then you're
Yeah,
just a bunch of weird shit going on. That game looks cool. Um, Shredders, which I forgot that got announced, but it's just a snowboarding game.
yeah.
It's not the Ubisoft one, which is the cool one, which I
Riders
can't
Republic.
remember. Yeah, Riders Republic. Oh, Slime Rancher 2. I have yet. Slime Rancher 1 is on my like bucket list of like I should mess around with this. This seems like a me game.
Slime Rancher is fun enough. I remember downing some podcasts. We'll try and get out once.
Yeah.
It's like it's cute,
Let's
a bit
see.
chaotic for my taste, but
Yeah. And they
uh,
had this Diablo 2 console, like Diablo 2 Resurrected, which is like the remake of or remaster, I'm sorry, of Diablo 2. Got the pretty gameplay graphics. Still never played more than a couple hours of a Diablo game, so maybe it'll be that one. I don't know. Hades coming to Game Pass though.
yeah, that's good. That's a good one.
Ooh, oh, dude, this Psychonauts 2 trailer. Oh my, Austin, have we talked about my love of Psychonauts? I don't remember.
At some point, probably.
I was obsessed with Psychonauts, and I think I didn't have an Xbox yet, and I know the PS2 version didn't run too well, so I like got an Xbox for Psychonauts and fucking Halo. I am very excited. This game's pretty, and it's fucking weird, and it's out there, and it's coming August 25th, and it's coming out Game Pass, man. Fuck it,
Yeah, yeah. Like
ready.
it's a very Double Fine game, I'll say. And I always enjoy seeing Double Fine like just be Double Fine.
Yeah, and their bigger games are so cool too. Like after Brutal Legend didn't do too well, they were kind of went to like the indie space for a little bit, or the smaller budgeted title like
Well, they did.
Stacked.
Yeah, well, they did their like Kickstarter thing, right? Like I think Double Fine,
Yeah,
like the reason we talked about Kickstarter in like the early 2010s and the way that we did was because Double Fine Adventure, which would later become uh, I forget the name of that game that came out as a
oh, it's like
result.
two something two,
Yeah, it was.
which had two
Uh,
parts as well.
yeah, it was like this two-part adventure game. Broken Age. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I was
Broken
about to say
Age.
Broken Age. Yeah,
Yeah, like that. They didn't even have a real pitch. They just said like, "Hey, if you give us money, we'll make an adventure game like the games we used to make." And then people gave them millions of dollars, and that sort of starts
yeah,
a wave of Kickstarter uh, like projects from studios like Double Fine and like Obsidian, who are like, "Hey, we we're really good at making this thing, but no publisher's gonna give us the money to do it. How about you give us money?" And we'll make it for you. And that's how you get things like
yes,
Pillars of Eternity, Shenmue 3.
Fucking Shenmue
Uh,
3. That game came out. That game came out.
Bloodstained,
Bloodstained.
and
Yeah.
like Mighty Number Nine, right? As panned as that game is when it released, like that Mighty Number Nine is also like was a big deal for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they showed, they were like, here's a bunch of stuff that's just coming to Game Pass. Like, all the Yakuza games are in Game Pass now, including the RPG Like a Dragon, which has like a
Yeah,
Series X and S version, which is cool. Somerville is going to be on there. Halo Infinite, Hades, Plague Tale Requiem, which is that
that's the sequel
the sequel? Okay,
to A Plague Tale Innocence, I believe
nice. There's like a
is the first
Grounded
game.
update, which is that Honey I Shrunk the Kids co-op thing that I will never touch. Among Us is going to be on Game Pass. I was like, yeah, go for it.
Yeah,
12 minutes, Dungeons and Dragons at Argument. Dark Alliance, Sable, Hello Neighbor 2, Scorn, The Gunk. I remember that trailer. So yeah, hey, Bethesda had a good time, man.
yeah, like it's just it's really interesting. Like even if the showcase by Xbox wasn't as interesting as it is, just the fact that they can sit there for an hour, show you like relatively like okay looking games, and then just at the end of it say, if you have Game Pass, you get it for free. Like you get it. I don't want to say for free because you're still paying a subscription, but
Yeah.
you have access to it, and that's really interesting. Um, and it's really like cool. You know, like I don't know if I'd ever mess with a Plague Tale, but it's on Game Pass, so if I ever resubscribe to that, I might actually sit with the first game and then get Requiem. You know, like Contraband seems interesting. They didn't give us anything other than a teaser trailer for it, but it seems like it could be fun. It's like a heist game, supposedly. Dark Alliance, right? Like, I love me some D&D, but like, canon Dungeons and Dragons lore is the most boring thing to me imaginable. But like, I'll play Dark Alliance on Game Pass
Oh yes, Contraband, the trailer with that song everybody loves.
with Steely Dan.
Yeah. Who's making this? Did they say? I don't even remember. Oh, Avalanche. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
sure. Co-op Smuggler's Paradise, 1970s. Yeah, Microsoft had a good one. I don't remember who else we were going to talk about it for Monday and Tuesday, but I don't think that too much came out. It was like
not like we already
2K
talked about
didn't really have
Square.
anything. Yeah, and
Yeah, well,
we talked
2K,
about Square already.
yeah, 2K's was a panel on diversity and inclusion. It wasn't like an actual showcase. Um, a lot of people were mad about that.
Yeah.
Capcom, I don't, I think we already talked about Capcom
Yeah,
too,
I
right?
watched
Yeah,
Capcoms. They didn't. It wasn't really. They
yeah,
had some
Capcom's
stuff
wasn't
from
much,
the Monster Hunter on.
and
They had the Monster Hunter Stories 2. They were showing some stuff off, and then they had
esports.
some updates for
Yeah.
the what was it called? Rise, Monster Hunter Rise. You know, we're here. We're at the end. Whoever makes it this far, there was a fucking article that came out because there's like it's like a Gundam conference happened with Bandai, and they were like, we want to get into esports with Gundam, so we're gonna go make a game that's for people to play esports with Gundam. And I'm like, guys, stop. Just make a good game.
I
And
mean,
that
if you
was
want to make it
literally how they
competitive,
phrase it. They want an esports Gundam game.
yeah, I mean, it's, I, I don't know, Bandai Namco's a thing. Like, and their
Yeah.
showcase was just like they also had a showcase, but that was just like 10 minutes of uh the House of Ashes, the Dark Pictures anthology, and that wasn't even a particularly interesting like look into that game either, which was a bummer because I wanted to see like a deep dive into that game, and I got like this really shallow interview of like what was it like working with Ashley Tisdale type deal, which just didn't provide me with
Jeez.
much of anything.
No. Oh, okay. Here's the name of it. Is the Gundam Conference 2021, which is a real thing that Bandai Namco held, where they talked about their global topic creation strategy and their domestic revitalization strategy and their target based development strategy. It's a business. I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's okay. What were they talking? They put up a. Do you know the stuff behind Gundam Seed at all? Do you know about people's in America's love for that series?
I feel like I've seen episode like back when it was on Yahoo View.
Oh, it's a pull.
I think I watched like parts of Gundam Seed, and I immediately dropped off of it after like one of the plot points was um this this rich girl's like father is killed by Xeon, and so she seduces like the new type protagonist uh into like making him just incredibly violent towards Xeon.
Yeah. That
I
Seed is a remake of the first series in a weird way, and people in
hmm,
America aren't too big into it, but Japan loves Seed. They put up like a 1-to-1 model of like the Seed Gundam. Uh,
yeah.
I think it's the Ale Strike or something. And it might have been Shanghai, it might have been somewhere in China, but they do that where they'll put up the 1-to-1 models, and I think that's really cool.
I mean, it looked cool. I just thought like the narrative I was watching unfold
Yeah.
sucked.
Yeah, people don't like Seed. Neither Seed Destiny, which is like Zeta Seed,
Yeah.
people like a little better. Yeah. Oh, the Freedom Gundam. Yep, they put up the Freedom Gundam. Weird. Oh yeah, how is it? You're watching some Gundam. How you were talking about that, and I didn't hear you that well when you said it, so we skipped over. But how where you at? What's up?
Oh, I've like the thing is I've been watching. I was watching Gundam through like a extended free trial with Funimation. Um, and like really, as far as Gundam goes, they only really have the original Mobile Suit on their service. So I'm watching like other anime now, and like once that goes away, I think I'll watch what was the one you recommended, Zeta? Um, because it's on YouTube, I believe.
Yeah, Zeta's dope.
Yeah, so I'll sit
Did
with
you
like Zeta.
did you finish Mobile Suit?
Yeah, I finished Mobile Suit.
Could how'd it go?
I mean, it doesn't really have a real conclusion.
No,
It's
no, it
which is
doesn't.
interesting. I mean, it doesn't really have that much of a conclusion up until I guess like Char's counterattack, like the movie. Um, it is pretty wild how that series just ends with like every, we'll say every weapon of war that that series has wanted you to get attached to, so you'd buy the toy. Um, every single like weapon in that show gets destroyed.
Yeah, yeah, and then they
Um,
have all that stuff where I think Lala shows up in the later half of that show, who's
yeah,
like,
who's like the first real new type, right? Like she kind of awakens the new type psyche in Amuro and Char. Like she kind of like puts them on the path of understanding that psychic new types are an entirely new like form of human, and then she gets murdered.
yeah, it's like this like fight between them two, and she's in the middle, and she's that's
Yeah,
why they both hate each other, and will
yeah,
continue to hate each other.
yeah. Like she's like protecting Char, and like Amaru like inadvertently like kills her in that fight, and that's why Char like hates Amuro, despite the fact like he let Amuro go at the end so that way he could exact revenge on the head Xeon family uh, by shooting a rocket at the head of the last surviving member of the Zabi family and like absolutely obliterating her. Um, it's wild. It was interesting.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here poking through some like episodes of this. I forgot the music is just like so fun and like 70s.
Yeah, the music's very like 70s and fun. Like half of like the combat tracks feel like they're the precursor to that like Kill Bill like alarm, right? When
Yeah,
Bride meets like the first target she's about to kill and they like flashback, like half of the combat music of the original Mobile Suit Gundam sounds like that, like the sort of precursor to that in a real way.
yeah, that's cool. You got to see some big mobile. Was it the Big Zam? I think the Big Zam was in the first Mobile Suit series.
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of just
Big
big
Zam. The mobile
bigger
armors.
robots, right? Like, yeah, the mobile armors. Like, apparently the Gundam was a transformer in that first show, which
Oh,
is really
huh.
interesting.
You haven't gotten to the real Transformer yet. Double
Interesting.
Zeta
All right.
is three of them that come together to make like a
Oh, so
big
it's
one, the
so
big
it's a
boy.
Voltron. Okay.
It's kind of a It's got, yeah. It's weird.
Yeah,
Double
like
Zeta. Okay, Zeta. They made Zeta as like a serious sequel to whatchamacallit, Mobile Suit Gundam, and then Double Zeta is like, yeah, we're gonna make this for kids, and we're gonna try to get in the Transformers stuff with this, um, with our like lead suit for this, which I sent you a link of the Double Zeta in
oh
Discord.
jeez.
Like, it's just
Yeah.
bigger. Like, there's the Zeta, which is kind of like this slim, like upgrade of like the Mark II, which is
Yeah.
like the upgrade of the original one, and the Double Zeta is just chonky and has a big laser. It's the strongest mobile suit until Char's counterattack suit.
Yeah. It's it's interesting. It's just really busy. I'll say looking at this. I don't know if it ever that's
Yeah,
weird. I can't believe you took the original Gundam design, just decided what if we just added more plates on it.
yeah. Here's
Like the original Gundam design's already like weird because it doesn't fit with like most of the rest of that universe because they wanted it to look like
yeah.
heroic. Um, yeah, I don't. Interesting. I'll get around to that. I'm gonna get two Zeta at some point. I just wanted like I have like I think I'm on the last month of my Funimation trial, so I'm sitting through like Psycho Pass, and I want to hit the Ghost in the Shell OVA series that dropped a couple years ago.
Those are pretty cool. Here's the three stuff that are in Zeta. If they shows up in Discord as a picture, there's the Mark II, which they put black in the center instead of blue, and then they have like a gray kind of.
Oh wow.
Then there's the Zeta, and this is like a mobile armor on the far right. Because what
Yeah.
happens in Zeta is there's like a team called the Titans that work for the Federation, and they're like a mercenary group or a bunch of assholes. So they're designing the Mark II, and they have a bunch of Zeta colored Mark IIs, which are this far right color scheme, but on the Mark II RX-78, which looks pretty cool. And it's got the shield that flips down. I like the Mark II a lot. The Mark II is really cool, and the like animation for Zeta is like noticeably like the sequel. They had a bigger budget because
Yeah.
it's the first season did really well and stuff, and it does well, and the soundtrack's great too.
Yeah. Like Gundam is just like Gundam has only ever like gotten better as far as looks go from what I've seen. Like, from
Oh, and
Zeta to like
Char is so cool in Zeta. Oh my
oh 08,
god.
like when you get to like 08 MS Team, like that's
Yeah,
a
some good
ridiculously
designs
good
too.
like design and like well made action sequences.
That series is great. I think I have it on DVD. But yeah, no, Quattro, Char is Quattro Bagina and Zeta, and he just has sunglasses and does a bunch of really cool. You thought him having bazookas at the end of Mobile Suit was weird. The first episode opens with Char breaking into a Federation facility and with a jetpack shooting rockets at people. It's great.
What are you doing, buddy?
Okay,
Uh,
we've gotten deep into the Gundam talk. I
we
think
got deep into
we
Gundam.
we could wrap the episode now for people who stuck around for our new Mobile Suit Gundam podcast.
I
All
will also
right.
say the amount of emphasis that the end of that series put on romance between characters was really strange.
Oh yeah, doesn't something happens? Is it Bright or is it Sh-
Um,
Char's sister? I don't
well,
remember
like
what it was.
it's both technically. Like Noah Bright begins falling for Mirai, who is the navigator of um the white base, and like her whole thing was that she was in love, like, or at least attracted to this lieutenant who shows up, does nothing, slaps her when she's arguing with her sort of arranged marriage husband, thing, um, and tells her to get over the fact that she doesn't want to be in this relationship. The next episode, she's like, "Man, I'm kind of into that dude. It's like really weird." He dies, and the final bit of the series is
Yeah,
like Mirai and Bright kind of like each other, and hints at Char's sister Sayla being attracted to Amuro. because they're both new types.
Yeah, nothing comes of that. So
I mean, nothing.
spoilers.
Yeah, like
I
nothing is
not
going
even
to
in
hit
the
there.
other series, because like so also Char's counterattack was supposed to be a series, but they turned it into a movie because they wanted something to put out in the movie theater, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
So we never got like the longer because there's like arcs in Char's counterattack that are like, oh, this is the mid-season arc and this is the end of this season, but they threw it into a movie. Same as oh, what F91, which is like 80 years after Char's counterattack or something. It's still like Universal Century.
Yeah.
That was a pretty weird one too. But we got a comic off of F91 called Crossbone Gundam with like pirate Gundams. They're really cool.
Yeah.
It was like a comic. I don't know if they did a TV show yet, but
Yeah, and I
it's
think like the
dope.
last Universal Century thing they might have done was like Unicorn, and like the end of
Yeah.
Unicorn kind of has like or sort of shows that like Char and Amuro are like gone, are fully gone because they've like ascended almost, right? Like they've gone so new type that they've left behind humanity. It seems like, and the ending of that is like them trying to pull back the main protagonist from joining them in like whatever existence that is.
Yeah. There is one after, but it's Mobile Suit Gundam Origin, and it's like a prequel to Mobile Suit Gundam.
Yeah.
And it's like all about Char, which is really interesting. I sent you a link. It's $290, and I can get this white base with a bunch of miniature Gundams. God damn, that's so cool looking. I would need to make way more money than I do to buy this fucking dumb
I
toy.
mean,
It's so
they
cool
don't.
looking.
It doesn't even come with the G armor.
No G armor and no red Zaku. So disappointed.
Yeah.
You get a gun tank and no gun cannon. No, there's a gun cannon
Yeah,
actually.
the gun cannon's there, the gun tank's there,
Yeah,
it's just not the G armor because like that was introduced, and that was introduced
yeah,
halfway. Oh, that was introduced in like the episode where everyone was like a Lieutenant Matilda shows up, and every dude on the white vase is like, "Oh man, she's so pretty," and then she
yeah,
gets freaking like spiked out of her ship by a Zaku, like just absolutely
yeah.
punches her cockpit and it spikes her ship to the ground, and everyone's like, "Oh no,
Yeah,
the
original
hot
Gundam's
lady."
weird sometimes.
Well, I mean, it's
Some of the other
really
ones get weird too.
yeah, well, I mean, it's like all mecha animes like that, right? Like so much of mecha anime, because of like original Mobile Suit Gundam, is about like teens getting into just machines of war that like people in the military just either just can't really operate, either because they can't conceive of how to operate it, or like we need something that people that we can expend and can are like elastic enough to operate this kind of thing. And
Yeah,
so that's how you end up dealing with things like, wow, these kids got hormones all over, right? Like that's how
that's how
you
you get
get
G. That's how you get
yeah,
Gundam G Reco, which is like another series that's like
yeah,
non-Universal Century.
yeah. Like how you get that thing I was talking about with Gundam C. That's how you get Neon Genesis, right?
Oh, fucking Neon Genesis. I hope they put that other movie out. How they that series is so well in Japan and the States that they're just gonna keep making them. I know it. After that movie comes out, they're just gonna reboot the series or something.
I wouldn't be surprised.
What's the Gundam's cool because you're at the point where you finish Mobile Suit and now you have like a wide swath of like I could keep going into Universal Century or I can touch some of these other shows that are like the one set where it's like Wing is its own series and G Gundam and
Yeah, things like
I
Iron
like
Blooded
Turn A,
Orphans.
Iron Blood. There's a cool okay, so I was talking about this one called G Reco. Most Gundam series are like 50 episodes, and then you get some OVAs that are like 10 episodes, a little longer, a little
Yeah,
shorter. G Reco is a series, but it's only 25 episodes. It's like one season. That's a pretty cool one because it's G Reco is also kind of based on um, the original series, and it's got a different animation studio than who normally animates them.
yeah. I feel like
Because
I've
normally
seen.
it's I can't remember who animates them normally.
I remember there was another Gundam series I remember seeing like
Sunrise normally does them.
on Sci-Fi that was about like this like group of Gundam pilots using Gundam, like advanced Gundam, to like end war.
Ooh, okay, that's Double O.
That's Double O. Okay.
Double O takes place in our timeline.
Yeah, I
Anno
remember.
Domino is what they call it, because that's like the Japanese term for like year or something. But yeah, that takes place in ours. It's not as far forward as Mobile Suit, like
Mm,
technology wise, but they are anti-war because there's three parts of the world that rise up because they all got these towers built that are these giant space elevators that have solar panels that are collecting a bunch of energy and making those three areas really rich. So there's like America, China, and I think somewhere in either Europe or Africa has the other space elevator. So those are the three factions kind of messing with each other. And the Double O pilots are kind of intervening and blowing up all their infantry and leaving and telling the guys, hey, if y'all don't stop fighting, we're just going to come in and murder both sides.
yeah,
And it
like
does the thing that like Gundam Wing does, where you have the multiple protagonists and they each have a specialized suit.
yeah, and this is like, oh, this is yeah, like the main protagonist is someone who grew up in like just a excessively war-torn like Middle East. Like I'm reading on the wiki page, like yeah, this is definitely the thing I remember seeing on like the Sci-Fi Channel, and
Yeah,
immediately
that's
turning on.
Setsuna. That one's okay. I had a fun time watching that. I like the kits for that are pretty cool. Yeah, Double O has two series and a movie. Um, Season one is interesting. It's like one of them's a sniper, one of them has like a jet, and the other one's like in
I love the
a thick mech.
just
It's like
ridiculous notion of a mech sniper.
yeah, it's a whole thing. But you have because so the Zeta Gundam turns into a jet. So in Double O you have the jet, you have the Zeta with you, and then the double Zeta, and then the regular Gundam, and then the sniper guy. Which I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. So yeah, there's Gundam's got a bunch of cool stuff. All right, we will come back for some game impressions because we both have been looking at some of the Xbox demos, and I think they're on PC as well.
A couple of them are. So it's Steam
Yeah,
Next Fest is what I've been looking at.
yeah, and I've had a couple of. They're like Summer Games Fest on Xbox or something along those lines. They're coded. There's not a central place on Xbox to find them all. You kind of have to search for them in a certain way to get them, which is kind of annoying. But I've got a couple of them I've been messing around with. So we will come back later. Thanks for joining us for the E3 and a little bit of Gundam talk at the end.
Yeah, just a little bit of Gundam Talk.
All right. Till next time, I'm at Travis23 Doyle, and I'm going to tweet my favorite Gundams. Let's go.
If you need to find me on Twitter, you can find me at Davis2. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I did. I think it might have cut out.